Vielen Dank, Herr Vannacci, dass Sie nach Wien gekommen sind. Sie haben eine sehr interessante Rede gehalten und unser Publikum weiß möglicherweise noch nicht, wer Sie sind. Sie sind ein erfolgreicher Autor in Italien, aber Sie blicken gleichzeitig auf eine sehr lange Karriere als Soldat zurück. Vielleicht könnten Sie sich kurz selbst vorstellen.
Sure, I am a soldier. So I enrolled in the army when I was 17. I went when I finished the academy. I was a paratrooper, and then I went in the special forces army, and I took part in the operations almost everywhere the Italian army has been employed. So starting with Somalia, and then Rwanda, Yemen. I had several deployments in Iraq, and then more than 5 deployments in Afghanistan. And I didn't miss neither the Ivory Coast and neither the Arab Springs in Libya. So I had very long lasting deployments in combat operations. One of the last appointments I had as a general was as a military attaché, as a defense attaché in Moscow. And I came back from Russia in 2022. And in 2023, I published my book, The Word Upside Down, that, how can I say, was a turning point in my life because it changes completely what I was doing so far. And I became a writer. I became someone against the politically correct. I was even suspended from my work, from my employment. And I started my political life with the Lega in Italy. And in June, last June, I was elected in the European Parliament as parliamentarian. And now I am part of the patriot groups inside the European Parliament.
Ich habe über Ihr Buch gelesen, dass Sie das tun, was jeder gute Offizier tun sollte. Sie sammeln Informationen, prüfen die Situation und handeln dann auf dieser Basis. Und ich habe auch gelesen, dass Sie in Ihrem Buch einige Ideen entwickelt haben, wie wir zu einem besseren System gelangen können. Könnten Sie kurz beschreiben, wie diese Ideen aussehen?
Yes, sure. Normally, I think that before acting, we should know what it's about. So we should collect the information, considering the situation, and then acting for what is the best for us. And that's the way we should act every day for our own life and in the society and also in the political world. So this way of behaving would change the ideology word, where we don't act because we want to reach a specific objective, but we just act it because we believe in an ideology that lead our actions. So we don't act pragmatically, but just because we love an ideology and we follow the ideology like a religion, for example. And that's the difference between what I think it is correct to do in politics. We should decide the objective, and then we should achieve this objective in the simplest way. And what is happening right now, we don't decide the objective, but we just follow the ideology of the left, of the right, of the Green Deal, of the cancel culture, and whatever. So my opinion to have a simple and effective solution is to use the common sense. The old common sense that come from, the old man in the past, and that tells us what is better to do to achieve a specific objective. Unfortunately, this common sense has been lost because we strongly and something forcefully have been pushed to follow the ideology. In my book, I talk about energy, I talk about ecologism, I talk about family, I talk about taxes, and in my opinion, I find some simple way to have a better word than what we have so far, what we have had so far. So I think these are the kind of solution that we are looking for. Probably we need some time to put them in practice, but we need to change our mind. We need to change our way of behaving, and we need to apply what we have learned from the past to continue to be one of the best places in the world where we can grow up and when we can reach the felicity and happiness.
Der Welt stehen momentan sehr schwierige Zeiten bevor und die Lage in Russland scheint sich zuzuspitzen. Herr Biden versucht gerade den Dritten Weltkrieg herbeizuführen, also meiner Meinung nach. Und auch einige Verbündete innerhalb der NATO sagen, es wäre eine sehr gute Idee, Langstreckenraketen auf russisches Territorium abzufeuern. Meine Frage ist, warum macht Italien bei dieser Idee nicht mit? Soweit ich informiert bin, sagte Frau Meloni nein, keine Langstreckenraketen. Und meine zweite Frage richtet sich an den Soldaten. Welche Strategie sehen Sie hinter dieser Vorgangsweise? Spielt der Westen hier nur ein Spiel? Versucht er herauszufinden, ob die militärischen Systeme funktionieren? Oder ist es wirklich eine ernste Bedrohung
So I
Russlands?
confirm Italy didn't give the permission to use long-range weapons inside the Russian territory. Italy is not alone. For example, neither Germany authorized the use of long-range weapons. And I think that the authorization given by the US authority is a very, very dangerous provocation. It will not change anything in the large economy of the war, but it will raise the level of risk to spiralize the conflict and even to arrive eventually at the use of a nuclear weapon, which is a tangible risk that we are taking so far. Regarding the conflict between Russia and Ukraine, I would be very pragmatic. I'm not going to say if it is right or if it's wrong. Every country has the right to defend itself. But 3 years of war haven't achieved any tangible solutions and any tangible results. So if the strategy is not good, we need to change strategy. Military speaking, I think there is only one solution to win this war from the Western country is for NATO to be implied directly in the war. If NATO is not going to be implied directly in the war is not going to be won by the West. The implication of NATO in war is very dangerous because we are talking about nuclear powers. So it could conduct to the thermonuclear destruction of the Western world, and I don't think it's the case. So I think the only solution it's in our hands is to find a negotiation between the two entities, between Russia and Ukraine, to push for peace, because 3 years of war have not conducted to any solution. So when the war is not productive, we need to find other means to end this conflict and these tensions between the two states. The war is producing death, poverty, tragedy in Ukraine, but is also paid by every European citizen, is also disrupting the Western economy. So I think is in the it's the worth for everyone in Europe, especially, to find a solution and to find the peace between Russia and Ukraine.
Die Verwendung dieser Waffen, ergibt das irgendeinen militärischen Sinn oder ist es nur eine Provokation?
As I told you before, it doesn't change anything in the global economy of war. It's not because they will use these long-range missiles that the destiny of the war will change. So it's a big provocation. It could engender a spiralization of the conflict. It's more a political move than a military move because it will put obstacles in the next US administration. But from a military point of view, it's not going to change major things in the global war that it has been conducted in the last 3 years.
Lassen Sie uns eine andere Bedrohung für Europa betrachten. Das ist die Migrationskrise und Italien ist ein großer Eintrittspunkt für Migranten, die dann quer durch Europa verteilt werden. Und die Frage ist, haben Sie in Italien diskutiert, was hinter all dem stehen könnte? Ich habe immer die Meinung vertreten, das muss man fast wie Artilleriefeuer wahrnehmen. Jemand beschießt Europa mit Menschen und verursacht dadurch Zerstörung. Aber wer profitiert von all dem?
Well, in my opinion, there are two mechanisms. One is the normal mechanism of immigration. People are moving from areas where the life is harder to areas where the life is easier. And if you don't have any measures of containment, they will continue to move. And the other one is always this ideology of changing the Western world that is eager to rise the number of immigrants in Europe because they are going to change the Western world. So you have two pull factors. One of is the natural one, and the other one is the provoked factor made by our own brothers that are living in Europe, that they want to raise the number of immigrants because this is gonna facilitate the changing of Western world. And I have seen with my eyes this phenomena in the European Parliament when the left parties try to vote for taking out the financial resources to Frontex, which is the European agency who is responsible for protecting the European borders. So they wanted not to give them the resources to work. So it means that they want more immigration. They want more deregulation. So this is the left party's ideology to let more and more immigrants come to Europe because these immigrants will change the Western society. So what we need to do, we need to stop illegal immigration. Legal immigration have always existed. It could be a win-win factor for each entities, but must be regulated. There is only one way to go in a foreign country, is having your visa in your passport. If you don't have the visa, you cannot go there. Italy is one of the major entry points. I know that, even though the numbers have decreased in the last years. But in Italy, we have also there a political problems. We have a strong left party that is eager to increase the number of immigrants, and they are doing a big feast when the right party is not able to repatriate the immigrants. And we need to fix it because, there is a physical limit on immigration. We will not be able to accept unlimited numbers of immigrants in Europe, and sooner or later we need to stop it. So better to stop it before it is too late.
Denken Sie, wir können sie zurückschicken auf eine friedliche Art?
I believe we can send them back. We need to change our rules. We need to change our laws. The laws that we have applied so far are not useful anymore for this situation. And I think that our parliament, the European one and the national parliaments, are there for doing that. Because it's not in the European interest to increase the number of immigrants, of illegal immigrants in Europe. I think it's quite clear for everybody. And I think that also normal people are realizing that we cannot accept anyone in our nations. We cannot continue to accept everyone in our nations. We need to find a system to regulate immigration and to accept only legal immigration.
Wenn ich darüber nachdenke, wer daran Interesse haben könnte, Europa zu destabilisieren, dann denke ich unter anderem an China. Und ich habe immer das Gefühl, dass wir nicht genug in diese Richtung schauen. Wir haben Russland als großen Feind, zumindest seit 2022. Aber was würden Sie sagen? Sie haben auf so vielen Schlachtfeldern gekämpft, viele Länder gesehen, auch in Afrika. Und viel zu wenige wissen, dass China bereits halb Afrika aufgekauft hat. Sie expandieren überall und ich glaube, sie haben bestimmte strategische Interessen. Was ist Ihre Meinung? Könnte beispielsweise China hinter der Migrationskrise stehen?
Well, I would not exclude that because, it's not easy to find the smoking gun. But I'm not so convinced that it would be one of the major objectives of China to destabilize Europe. Europe is one of the major consumers of China manufacturing, so they need to keep Europe in measure to be the major manufacturer. If not, they will lose the market. So there could be some interest in rising the immigration from third world country to Europe, but probably the mechanisms are a little bit different. China is an emerging power. It is expanding the influence. It has already expanded the influence in Africa, in South America, in Asia, in many countries of the world. But this is also because Europe is not expanding anymore, and it renounced to expand. If you take in account the economic situation, since 2008, USA has grown 100% of the brute product. China has grown 400%, and Europe has grown only 20%. And why we have growth only 20%? Because we had a policy and a politics that push to the deindustrialization of Europe. We focused on the Green Deal, decarbonization, save the planet, and this have implied a lot of consequences. Have implied also an economic crisis, have implied the rising of unemployed people, and have implied also the increasing of the illegal immigration in Europe. So probably we are also the cause of what happened in the last 25 years. For sure, there have been external influence, but I think we need to focus more on what we were able to produce ourselves in our European world than what the external actors were able to push us to conduct. And regarding immigration, in my book, I wrote two successful examples where democratic countries were able to stop illegal immigration. One is Australia. In 2013, they had a very massive campaign against illegal immigration, and they were able to stop it totally. If you want to go to Australia, there is only one way: having a visa in your passport. If you arrive as a clandestine immigrant, you will be repatriated immediately. And the other country, even very democratic, is Japan. Even though there is a big pressure from China of immigrants that would like to go to Japan, Japan had a very, very effective policy and politics to stop illegal immigration. And the only way of reaching Japan is in a legal way. So being democratic does not imply the impossibility to fight against illegal immigration.
Aber beide Länder haben einen großen Vorteil, es sind Inseln.
Well, we are not an island, but if you think that the majority of the immigrants arrive in Europe through the sea, through the Mediterranean Sea, we are in the same situation than Japan and Australia. So the situation in Europe right now, it's much easier to stop the immigrants in a land border than in a sea border. And if you take in account Japan and Australia, they had the same problem with the sea borders. So probably that's our inefficiency of acting against this illegal immigration that has to be taken in account, than only the fact of being an island or not an island.
Viele Menschen sehen mit Hoffnung nach Italien, weil rechte Parteien dort sehr erfolgreich waren. Aber inzwischen finden viele Menschen sehr harte Worte für Frau Meloni. Sie halten sie für eine Art Verräterin an der konservativen Rechten. Trifft das zu oder ist diese Beurteilung zu hart?
Well, I think that Miss Meloni is a very talented woman. I think that whoever you are, when you are in charge of leading a country, you need to negotiate your positions more than when you are not in the lead. So I think it's natural that many of her position has been moderated during this period in the lead of the country. And I think that Meloni will realize that the more she takes a moderate position, the more she will lose the original electorate that allowed her to be in lead. So very likely, because she is smart enough, she will modify her position. I think this government in Italy has already achieved a very important objective. And I think very reasonably that it will last until the end of the legislation, so until 2027. We will see what she will do with the next US administration, but I'm quite positive. So we will see in the next months.
Linke Medien hassen sie.
Yeah,
Ich,
not only.
ich habe auf Google nach ihnen gesucht und ich fand einen Artikel in unserem linken Zentralorgan der Standard und sie kritisieren sie üblicherweise, weil sie homophob wären. Also lassen Sie uns einen Blick in die Zukunft machen oder auch auf die heutige Situation. Wie groß ist Ihrer Meinung nach das Problem mit der Homosexualität hinsichtlich unserer heutigen Zustände?
So, I will be very straightforward. Personally, I don't have anything against homosexuality. In my opinion, it's a choice, it's a taste. Someone likes sparkling water, someone likes wine, and that's the same thing in the sexual life. It becomes a problem when it goes to big exposure and prevarication of the other sensibilities. When it becomes a spectacle, when you want to show to the others what you are, what is your orientation, and when you think that your sexual orientation become a model for the society. And it is what has happened in our Western society in the last 20 years. You have homosexuality that is shown everywhere, in the movies, in the cinema, in the art, even if in the reality you don't have this percentage of homosexuality. So you have false figures that are aimed to show you that homosexuality is the normality. And it is exactly the terms that I use in my book. In my book, I talk about normality. What is normality? Normality is a statistic metrics and it says that it's normal what the majority of people is doing. Being normal is not better and is not worse than being not normal. And because homosexuality is regarding a very thin slice of the society in the reality, official statistics in Great Britain came out with saying that only 3.4% of the British society does not recognize itself in the heterosexuality. So it's just a very thin slice of the society. In my book, I wrote that homosexuality is not normality from a statistical point of view. And for this reason, I was treated as an homophobe. I'm not homophobe. Homophobia means to be scared about someone who has not the same sexual orientation of you. I'm not scared at all. I can be very close to an homosexual and not being scared, so I'm not homophobe. I'm just saying that we need to change our approach to this sexual orientation. Everybody is free to do whatever they want, but what is not acceptable is the prevarication to the common sense. So I don't want my kids to be taught in the school gender ideology. I don't want to find in every movie an homosexual because they want to represent homosexuality in percentage much higher than it is in the reality. But at the end of the day, what we do in our homes and in our rooms doesn't interest anyone than the person that is there. So everybody is free to do whatever they want. I'm not an homophobic person, but I just would like not to be overwhelmed by, gay postures and LGBTQ model for the future of the world.
Kommen wir zu meiner letzten Frage. Sie haben in Ihrer Rede gesagt, dass Sie die Welt verändern wollen. Und Sie haben viele Ideen, die Sie in Ihrem Buch aufgeschrieben haben. Und meine Frage ist, glauben Sie, dass Religion wichtig ist, um dieses Ziel zu erreichen?
Absolutely. I'm not a very religious man. I am Catholic, but in my life I didn't have so much time to practice religion, but I think religion is a part of the culture. And if you think about religion in Europe, is what unified us more than any other item, more than the nations, more than the art, more than the culture. We were able to beat the Turks in the Lepanto battles or in the Poitiers battles because religion was able to unify us more than any other factor. So in Europe, for example, religion unifies us from North Cap to Malta. Not even the languages are so strong in unifying us. Not even the history of each nation is so strong. So we need to take in account that religion is one of the most important factors that is part of the identity of the people. And in the European Union, religion is a unifying factor that we need to take into account. We cannot renounce to our religion. We cannot just erase it because we have other religions coming in our continent. We need to extend our roots in the culture and in the original European culture and religion to be able to continue with our values and principles in the future. So religion is one of the most important factors for us to take, to take forward our way of living and our way of approaching the future.
Vielen Dank für Ihre Zeit.
You're welcome.
Wirklich unabhängiger Journalismus ist nur durch Ihre Unterstützung möglich. Zu den undemokratischen Maßnahmen gegen Report24 zählen immer wieder Kontenkündigungen. Bitte überprüfen Sie stets unsere aktuelle Bankverbindung unter report24.news/unterstützen. Herzlichen Dank.